What if a fun family beach trip suddenly turned into the biggest adventure Laiba and Halima had ever faced? The bright summer sun was shining through the windows early that morning when Laiba jumped out of bed after hearing her mother excitedly announce that the whole family was going to the beach for the weekend. And within minutes, the entire house became full of energy because Halima was running around searching for her sunglasses. Their father was carrying bags to the car, and their mother was packing snacks while warning everyone not to forget anything important. But even before the trip began, Laiba noticed something strange because their father kept checking an old folded map instead of using his phone's GPS. And every time she asked about it, he simply smiled and said, "Some adventures are better without technology," which only made the girls even more curious. The drive to the beach felt magical as they passed green fields, tiny villages, and long winding roads beside sparkling water, while music played softly in the car, and Halima kept imagining giant sandcastles and hidden treasure buried under the sand. But after several hours, the family finally arrived at a beautiful quiet beach, far away from the crowded tourist areas. And the moment the girls stepped onto the warm golden sand, they froze, because near the rocky cliffs stood a strange old lighthouse that looked abandoned for years. Its paint was peeling away, its windows were cracked, and at the very top, a faded red light blinked slowly, even though it was daytime. "Why is the lighthouse still working?" Halima whispered nervously. Their father looked toward it carefully before answering, "People say nobody has lived there for years." That single sentence instantly filled the girls with curiosity. At first, the day felt perfect because the waves were calm, the sea breeze was cool, and Laiba and Halima spent hours building enormous sandcastles while their parents prepared food nearby. But strange things kept happening because every few minutes they noticed footprints appearing near their castle even though nobody was around. And once, when Halima looked toward the cliffs, she could have sworn she saw someone quickly disappear behind the rocks. "Did you see that?" Halima asked quietly. Laiba nodded slowly. "Someone's definitely watching us." Instead of feeling scared, the mystery made them more determined to investigate. Later that afternoon, while collecting seashells near the water, Laiba discovered something half buried beneath the sand, a small rusty compass attached to an old chain. The compass needle spun wildly before suddenly pointing directly toward the abandoned lighthouse. "That can't be normal," Halima whispered. The girls immediately ran to show their father, but surprisingly, he looked shocked for a moment before quickly hiding it in his pocket. "Where did you find this?" he asked seriously. "Near the rocks," Laiba replied. Their father became unusually quiet after that and warned the girls not to go near the lighthouse alone, but of course that warning only made them even more curious, because now they knew there was definitely some kind of secret connected to the beach. As evening arrived, dark clouds slowly covered the sky, and strong winds began blowing across the ocean while the waves crashed louder against the shore. And during dinner, the lighthouse suddenly lit up brightly for the very first time, sending a beam of red light across the beach. Every family nearby stopped talking and stared silently toward it. Then the power inside the small beach cabin suddenly went out. Everything became dark. Halima grabbed Laiba's arm tightly. From somewhere near the cliffs came the sound of a bell ringing slowly through the stormy wind. Dong, dong, dong. Their mother tried to calm everyone while their father grabbed a flashlight. But before he could say anything, Laiba noticed a folded paper sliding across the sand toward them. No one could see where it came from. She quickly picked it up and unfolded it carefully. Written on the paper were the words, "The key is inside the lighthouse before midnight." Lightning flashed across the sky at the exact same moment. The girls stared at each other in complete shock. "What key?" Halima whispered. Their father suddenly stood up. "Nobody leaves this cabin tonight." But Laiba could tell from his face that he already knew something about the mysterious message. Hours later, while the storm continued outside, Laiba woke up after hearing the cabin door creak open softly. And through the window, she saw their father walking alone toward the lighthouse, carrying the old compass. Without wasting a second, she woke Halima, and together the sisters quietly followed him through the windy beach under the flashing lightning, trying not to get caught. The closer they got to the lighthouse, the stranger everything felt because the red light above them spun slowly across the ocean while the giant waves crashed loudly below the cliffs. And suddenly, the girls heard voices echoing from somewhere inside the building. They carefully peeked through a cracked window and saw their father standing beside an elderly lighthouse keeper with a long gray beard. "You promised nobody would return here," the old man said nervously. "I had no choice," their father replied. The compass was found. Laiba accidentally stepped on a loose shell. Crack! Both men turned instantly. "Who's there?" their father shouted. The girls slowly entered the lighthouse feeling embarrassed, but instead of getting angry, their father sighed deeply and finally revealed the truth. Years earlier, before the lighthouse was abandoned, a terrible storm had sunk a small ship near the cliffs, and hidden inside the lighthouse was an emergency rescue key connected to a secret underground tunnel used long ago to save trapped sailors during dangerous storms. The old compass was designed to point toward the hidden entrance whenever severe weather approached. "And tonight," the lighthouse keeper said while thunder shook the walls, "another storm is coming." Almost immediately, they heard distant cries for help coming from the ocean. Everyone rushed to the top of the lighthouse, where they spotted a small fishing boat, trapped dangerously between giant rocks as massive waves crashed around it. Without wasting time, the lighthouse keeper opened a hidden wooden door leading into a narrow underground tunnel beneath the cliffs. And together the family ran through the dark passage carrying ropes and flashlights while seawater splashed around their feet. The adventure quickly became terrifying because parts of the tunnel were collapsing from the storm, but Laiba bravely used the compass to guide everyone through the confusing pathways, while Halima carried the emergency lantern. Finally, they reached a hidden cave opening beside the trapped boat, where two frightened fishermen were struggling to stay aboard. "We need to hurry!" their father shouted over the roaring wind. Working together, the family tied ropes across the rocks while giant waves crashed dangerously close. And one by one, they helped pull the fishermen safely into the cave. Just moments before, a massive wave smashed against the boat, destroying part of it instantly. Everyone breathed heavily in shock. They had made it just in time. By the time the storm ended near sunrise, the clouds slowly cleared, and golden sunlight spread across the ocean once again. Emergency rescue teams arrived later that morning, and the fishermen thanked Laiba and Halima for their bravery, because without the compass and the lighthouse tunnel, they might never have survived the storm. As the family prepared to leave the beach later that day, Halima looked back at the old lighthouse standing quietly beside the cliffs. "So, the lighthouse wasn't haunted after all," she said with a smile. The old lighthouse keeper laughed softly. "Sometimes, the greatest mysteries hide important secrets." Laiba smiled as she held the rusty compass one last time before handing it back. The beach trip that had started as a normal family vacation had turned into an unforgettable adventure full of suspense, hidden tunnels, dangerous storms, and heroic rescues. And as the car drove away beside the shining ocean, both sisters secretly wondered one thing: what other mysteries were still waiting for them in the future?